Morning.
We'll come on to West Ham in a minute, but I want to start with the other night in Paris Saint-Germain. It was so special and so meaningful. Have you had time to process it yet, what you did, what you achieved?
Well, I woke up the next day and it was straight on with watching it back. I didn't get a chance to do it that night because it was quite a late night. And yeah, just so pleased, even watching it back in terms of the performance, what we gave, how committed the players were, and the feeling afterwards hopefully will live long, the memory of the game. But now we have to really refocus all our energy and our attention to West Ham, and we know it's going to be a really difficult game, but we've got to get our psychology right for the match.
And with the match coming up and so soon in another 3-game week, did the players, the staff, did you have any time to enjoy what you did the other night, even if it was just after the game altogether?
I think for the players, and for me it's slightly different. I think they can, and naturally I think as a player I did when I played well in the rare times that I did, you sort of live with that feeling for a period of time. I think when you're managing, I think your focus goes almost immediately to the next match and what you have to do to help the team, to help the players get to their optimal level again.
And with West Ham this weekend, the match was put back to the Sunday rather than the Saturday. Given your busy schedule in recent times, how important do you think it is having that extra day to prepare and get ready for the trip to London?
Yeah, it's nice having that extra day. Look, whenever we're told to play, we'll play and we'll get on with it. And I think the busy schedule is a reward really for all the hard work we've given. But I think if we can, especially with the few injuries we've got, recover the players as well as we can, because we're going to need all the energy we can for this game. It's going to be very difficult.
And West Ham, you've already mentioned how tough it'll be, and they're a club that's been able to balance Europe and the Premier League in recent years. This season, domestically though, they have improved from last year. Yeah. What differences, what changes have you noticed in West Ham? They lost a big player in the summer, but they also recruited a few.
Yeah, they did. They lost, obviously, Declan Rice, who was so important for them. He was sort of the heartbeat of the team. Gave them real stability in the middle of the pitch, but I think they've replaced him really well. It's always a challenge when you get sort of a big fee for a player and what you do with that money, but been very smart. The players that have come in, I think, have settled immediately, and they've done really well this season. They've had some really tough fixtures as well, so I think the start's been really impressive. I think they're an obvious threat from set plays with James Ward-Prowse's delivery and everything that he brings. So that's why for us, a case of refocusing and not being distracted or affected anyway by the performance on Wednesday. It's going to be a mental challenge again for us, much like it was for us after the Milan game to Sheffield United. Players dealt with that week really well, and this is another test for us.
I want to ask you lastly about Miguel Almiron, and we know how important a player he's been for you. Yeah. And once again, he's adding to the performances with some goals, some impressive ones and some important ones. How pleased are you with what he's given you over the last few weeks in particular?
Yeah, he's been very good. I think his finish on Wednesday can be underestimated. I thought it was a really, really good finish from a tough angle. He had to react very quickly, and he had to be really pinpoint with his finish. And last year he was magnificent. His goals helped us so much. I always say with Miggy, he's not just the goals; he's all-round performance, and I think he's in a good vein of form. He'd be really confident. He's such a big player for us.
Thank you.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
You said there that you've got to get the psychology back. Given the magnitude of the performance the other night and everything that went into it, is it going to be even tougher this week after the Milan one going in? Because you coped so well, didn't you? And then obviously came back and scored 8 goals against Sheffield United. But is it going to be even tougher this week, everything that surrounded that game the other night and the emotion?
We'll wait and see. I hope not. I hope the players can refocus our energies and our attention onto the game. For me, we have to get this game right. If you don't get the psychology right going into any game, the games are difficult enough. But especially West Ham away and everything that game brings, I think we know that we can't underestimate any team, any challenge wherever we go, and it's just about being present and making sure we deliver what we need to deliver. I think the motivation's there. I think we know what we have to do. But the big challenge is just regaining our focus after everything that happened on Wednesday. Very quickly come back to our training and our preparation and getting that right.
Up until now, your results and performances in this block since the last international break have been near perfect, and I guess that really pleased you after ending the last block going into the October international break with a couple of defeats. How pleased are you with the way the players have reacted, and how important is it to finish that on a high?
Yeah, we'd love to. I think it's been a magnificent response really to what was 3 really tough games for us, especially the last one against Brighton. We had a long time to think about that game. Now, we didn't have a long time to think about that game together because we all split and went in various directions, but then we came together again before the Brentford game, and the response, as I said, has been so good from the players, and I've seen a real togetherness and spirit and energy, positive energy that we've needed to carry us through, and we'd love to finish this block of games and with another positive result if we can.
You mentioned the injury list there. I know it's not looking great at the moment. How are you with the lads who missed out on Wednesday?
Yeah, I think the injury list doesn't look great at the minute, but I don't think, touch wood, apart from Harvey, I don't think there's anything long term there. But maybe some short term pain for us. But we'll wait and see how Callum and Joe are. They're probably the closest to. We've still got Anthony suspended, so that's another blow for us. That's it.
Willington?
Yeah, so Joe and Callum I think will be the closest to.
Yeah, okay. And Sven's still missing.
Yeah, Sven won't make it.
Yeah. So without Anthony as well, a little bit thin in the ground, you just had to look at your bench the other night. You didn't have too many attacking options there, but how pleased are you with the way that the lads came in, coped with it and stepped up to the table? And
that's the beauty of the squad. You know, we've had a few injuries and opportunities for players, and they've come in and taken those opportunities, and that's, from my position, that's what we're after. It then gives a greater feeling of everyone being involved. I said at the start of the season, everyone's got a huge part to play. Now we've got a lot of injuries in the same area of the pitch, in the attacking positions, but we've got some very good players still on the pitch, and I think you could see that on Wednesday.
Just finally from me, when I came out, popped my head out after the game last night, there's a lot of fans. They're all leaving in their droves. There was actually some fans in tears. You know, the magnitude of the game. Many of them saying this is the best game they've ever seen in terms of Europe, but also in many a year watching the club in domestic matches as well. I know obviously you find it difficult to sort of attach yourself to the emotional side of things, but when you hear that and you realise what it means to the fans, and maybe sit back and think about it for a moment, how does that make you feel?
Well, as long as they're happy tears, I'll take that. Certainly don't want them the other way round. No, I think, look, we're in the game to make our supporters proud. We're in the game to affect them emotionally. That's part of what we want to do. But of course, as I said, we want to do it from a positive perspective. And if we can do that in any way, that hopefully will inspire us back. You know, I think we know the importance of what we do for the city and for the supporters that we have, and it really does drive us. So a great night, and if people were affected emotionally, then that makes me really happy.
Well, Neddy, one of the more wholesome moments I think of Wednesday night was obviously Kieran and his son and the whole situation with the Kylian Mbappe shirt. I just wondered how your own sons had reacted to Newcastle swapping aside PSG.
Didn't say a lot actually. They're quite they're very vocal with their criticism. When things go well, they're a little bit more subdued. So it was morning. Actually, I didn't see them in the morning because I missed them, but I saw them in the afternoon, and it was just a little comment. And then they wanted to play themselves and try and recreate some of the moments of the game. And yeah, they're brilliant for me because they have a way of just bringing you back to reality very, very quickly. And not that I have an issue with that, but I just think spending time with your kids is always just the best thing.
Around the whole, I don't know if you can call it this, but the circus of a Champions League, there's so many things going on, obviously, that you weren't focusing on, but the drones, the highlights being played on the side of buildings, etc., etc. I wonder what you've made after 2 match days of, if you want to use that word, the circus, but the whole entertainment value of the Champions League around it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely sort of blindsided by it. I don't see it. So the drones, I saw a couple of pictures of it and it looked incredible, but I wasn't there to witness it. I've got no idea what you're talking about, the buildings, highlights on the buildings, so I can't comment on that. And I think that's probably a good thing for me, because I'm treating it like any other game. You're watching the opponent, you're preparing the game plan, you're training the players, and you're sort of in that bubble of work. And I think that's where I need to be. And I'd probably say the same for the players. Cut yourself off from it, concentrate and prepare as you normally would, and hopefully then you'll play as you normally do.
Speaking of the players, just isolating one in particular, Fabian Schär, the performance the other night, obviously capped off with the goal right at the end, but when you look at him now, would you think that he cost £3 million, not what it's about price, several years ago, and what do you think that he'd be worth now in today's market?
Yeah, I mean, it's not about price, because that's only what someone pays and when someone agrees to receive for the player. He's been excellent. He really has, and I think I said on a couple of interviews that I had after the game, it's not a conventional centre half finish. That's a centre forwards finish, really. But he has the capability to produce moments that take your breath away. Technically, so good. So I think if he was starting his career now, I think he'd be worth an absolute fortune. He's a top player, and I'm really pleased that he's getting the consistency and the accolades for his performances.
Keith alluded to it before, but obviously it's kind of swung back and forth. There was that 3 consecutive defeats. Now Newcastle find themselves in the form that you are in. Even after all your years in the game, does it surprise you even in the slightest how quickly football can change?
No, I don't think it surprises me. I've been in it long enough to know, both as a player and as a manager, you can never take anything for granted, good or bad. You're never in a moment for long. There's always a twist and turn ahead, and all you can do is just be consistent with your work and do your best, and then you just have to roll with the punches.
Just finally, just out of West Ham, we've talked about it a little bit already, but how do you go about harnessing or getting that balance of harnessing the energy, the undoubted positive energy that comes from a performance and an occasion like Wednesday night, but also that focus on a big game like Sunday?
Well, I think the interactions we have with the players in the next couple of days are going to be really important to reset the mindset, really, of what we want to do in this game. You can never live in the past, and now PSG is in the past. You can only affect the future, and you can only look at your next game and your next performance. So I think for me, it's, I already mentally moved on that evening after the game, and our players need to move on very quickly, and we need to prove ourselves all over again.
Thanks, Ed.
Good morning, Eddie.
Morning.
Gareth Southgate's just named his England squad, and just one of your team is named. I mean, are you surprised and maybe secretly a little pleased, because that will give some of your key players some rest time?
I wouldn't say pleased, but because I think you want the individuals within your squad to achieve everything that they dream of. I know there's a lot of players that would love to represent their country, whether it's England or anyone else. But Gareth will make his decisions. He's got a tough job. I'd never ever give an opinion on his squad or his choices, because that's his domain, and incredibly difficult job that he's got. But we do think we've got some really good players, and they just need to keep performing consistently.
But it will give those players some really much needed break time, won't it? That's must be very important for you.
Yeah, I think after this game coming up, there needs to be a period of rest. We need to get that right this year, between work, rest, and get their load right. More mentally sometimes than physically, because I think physically you can keep going, but sometimes mentally you might need that break to be at your very best. So that's how we'll look at it.
What about your captain, Jamal Lascelles? I mean, very little football played in the last year and a half, but he's really stepped up, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I mean, he's playing now as he's trained consistently for a long time. And he's only not played due to the consistency and performances of Fabian and Sven. But I'm delighted for him, because sometimes even yourself, you need to do it to believe it. But I thought he was excellent last night, highlighted by his tackle really towards the end of the game, where he's gone through with a challenge, and it was timed perfectly. So delighted for him. He's been a model of consistency, and he's getting his rewards.
I mean, like Keith, I stepped out after the game and interviewed supporters, and the expectations are through the roof now. We're going to win the Champions League. That sort of comment. What are your expectations now? Have you begun to assess what might be possible?
My expectations are, can we win our next game? That's all it is. And I know that sounds a bit dull, but that's how I think. I don't think anything other. Don't look long term towards what's going to happen in 3-4 weeks. It's right now, how can we get the players in the best position to perform again in a couple of days' time? And that is going to be our season, because the games and the challenges are just going to come thick and fast.
Sean Longstaff, there's talk about possible contract extension. Presumably you would really like Sean to be part of the long-term plans.
Well, he is part of the long-term plans, regardless of his contract length. I don't know. Again, yes, Sean's vital for us. He's been a huge player for us. I'm sure these things will pan out well for him.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
So, Jamal was the perfect example of the next man up attitude over the past couple of weeks, but given the circumstances with injuries and suspensions on Sunday, how much might you need that next man up attitude within the squad, and how important is that within the squad going forward?
Well, yeah, I mean, all the players need to be ready to play, and they need to be ready to play at their best. You can never tell, when you're not playing, you can never tell when your next opportunity is going to come, but when it does come, you have to take it, and you have to leave a positive impression. So there'll be more opportunities for different players potentially this weekend, and I'll back them to play well.
Thank you. Damien?
Eddie, you sent a few shockwaves across Europe with what you did the other night. What does it mean to you to have the club talked about in that vein after 20 years of not being on that table?
Well, I think it's nice to be talked about positively, regardless of who's doing it. But our intention was just to try and win the game and perform at our best level. Now, I think we did off the ball. I thought we were magnificent off the ball. On the ball, I think there's areas for improvement, and that is how I will always approach the situation. How can we perform better? And that process has already started, and can we elevate the team to new levels? So the better you get, the harder it is to get better, and we're well aware of that. So we're looking at small margins to try and push the team forward.
I'll just ask you about Alexander Isak. There were shades of Alan Shearer the other night, bloody bandage, battling away there. I mean, he's really taken on that mantle of leading the line in a high press team. Yeah,
he has, and I think a big change for him when he came to England, because I think that just the style of play and our style of play is different. So I think there was a period of adjustment for him, but I think probably what helped him actually was his early injury. Gave him a chance to sit back and watch the team and to understand the expectations and how we do things. Sometimes you can see that even clearer from watching. And then I think then when he came back to full fitness, he was excellent at the end of last season. Together with Callum, whether they were playing together or whether they were playing at different times, they both led the line superbly. And I think, especially in recent weeks, I think I've seen a real desire off the ball from Alex to press, to work, to set the standards really from the front in terms of how we play off the ball. And I think he's been terrific. And it was not nice to see him cut and bandage, but it's because I'd never say that. But it was nice to see a response to it. He responded and worked even harder. So full credit to him.
Luke and then Craig.
Be honest, Eddie.
Luke, I always try.
You do,
I try.
Apart from injuries.
I'll give you that one.
Have you ever found yourself humming the Eddie Howe, Jason Tindall song to yourself?
No, I don't think I have.
Jason?
But I was tapping my foot the other day. Not humming, I was tapping my foot.
Whilst it was being sung?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. A more serious question. It's 2 years since the takeover. What direction is this club heading in with the ownership it's got?
Well, hopefully upwards and in a real positive direction. I think that 2 years, the owners have been incredible for the football club so far. I think they've had a plan. They've tried to implement that plan. I think they've tried to give stability to the football club. They've just been very consistent, very level, and I think that really helps when you're internally working at the club to try and make good decisions. So full credit to everyone involved, and I think the future looks bright, but I think that depends on so many things to to continue to work well and go well. And there's no guarantee in football. You have to continually, every day, progress things forward. I know that's the wish, but it's not as easy as money doesn't guarantee it. It's good decisions, I think, is the key.
I know you don't like ranking results and nights in kind of your career, but where does the decision to become Newcastle United manager rank, do you think, in your lifetime?
Well, I sort of knew when the moment came, and it wasn't clear, as I've said many times, the story about how eventually the job was offered to me. But I knew the minute that I was going to say yes, and I'd been offered the job and I was going to take it, it was a life-changing moment for me. I knew my life would change. Thankfully, it's been a great journey so far. I've loved every second of it. As I said, when I took the job, very, very proud to become Newcastle manager. I've never woke up without that feeling. That feeling's there. That I'm doing something very special in my life, and again, I'm certainly something I'm not taking for granted.
And just one more, sorry, because I wasted one of those questions. The stadium, 52,000, absolutely pulsating on Wednesday night. How keen would you be to see it expanded at some point?
Yeah, I think I'd love to see it expanded if it can be done. I'm sure the club will do it. I think that's very much the club's philosophy at the moment. If we can push things forward for the better, for the supporters, for everybody, the club will do it. But I think it's not simple. I don't think it's a simple process. There's things that's got to happen, but we'd love to get more supporters in the stadium to enjoy watching us play.
Thank you.
Morning, Eddie.
Morning.
The chairman, on a similar theme to the 2-year anniversary of the takeover, the chairman was there on Wednesday night. Did you meet with him afterwards, and what did he say?
I did, very briefly, because I was in the middle of my press conference, so I broke away just quickly, just to have a very quick chat. I think it was, because we only had a couple of minutes together, it was quite short and sweet. And, just words of encouragement, really, on both sides. From him to me and from me to him. It's always great to see him. We love it when he comes to watch us play.
And we saw in the documentary, at the Newcastle, you are part of those strategic overview meetings involving the guys from Riyadh. What's the latest message from them? Because obviously we saw in the documentary the message was they want to be number one in the world. We haven't had a meeting together for, I'm just trying to think better, for some time, just because of this season's going to be different with the amount of games, so I'm working with the team, and I'm sure there's decisions and meetings going on that sort of I'm not aware of. I think that the aim is to be the best we can be as quickly as we can be, but I've not been set any targets. I think the targets to me are, as I say, to maximise and to try and get everything that I can out of the squad. That's the message, really.
Well, Lee and then Dom.
Eddie, how good is it for you that the younger generation now are really buoyant going into games, whereas like the older ones, I guess people like me and people in this room, will look at certain fixtures and we fear it, we'll look at European games and say could be fatigue issues, but how good is it that the younger ones are like really up for games like PSG and predicting big wins?
Are you talking players?
Fans, so the younger generation were all like up for it before the game, not fearing it?
It's difficult for me because, as I say, I'm not sort of in that world. I'm not sort of canvassing opinion. I think for me, when I prepare a game, you need a balance of respect. You need to prepare well. You need to understand the team that you're playing, strengths and weaknesses. But I never look at the name as such and make an opinion on the name. It's all about what my eyes tell me in terms of the team's level and how they can hurt us and how we can hurt them. So with West Ham, for example, looking at this weekend, very quickly watching them and becoming aware of their strengths, that they're a good team and they've started the season very well. So opinions outside of that don't really sway me. It's about me and my coaching team trying to prepare the game properly.
And just looking at the group now, everyone talked about it as a group of death in the Champions League group, obviously. You now give yourself a real good launch pad to possibly go on. I mean, you must be delighted with that.
It's been a good start. Yeah, I think the point at AC Milan, although the performance wasn't
maybe everything we wanted it to be, but the fact we got a point there and we got something on the board gave us a really good start point away from home. And then we've said all along, I think, during this group, that our home form will be crucial. We've made a good start at home, but nothing's achieved. We've got some very, very difficult games to come. But we can put that on the back burner for now and we return back to the Premier League.
Just on West Ham, I mean, obviously you're getting used to playing on a Sunday after Europe. They've done it for a couple of years now, so I guess that's a bit of a leveler, really.
Yeah, I think they've done very well. I think last year was a really interesting season for them. They, of course, they had huge success in Europe and a really memorable campaign in the end. And I'm sure they'd have learnt loads from their first, playing Saturday or potentially Saturday, because the games are all over the place. Saturday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Very, very difficult to do, as we're finding this season. But they've got the experience of that, and that's why I think David and his team deserve huge credit for how they handled last year and for how they're handling this year, because they've made a really good start.
You mentioned no Anthony Gordon this weekend due to suspension. As soft as some of his bookings have been, is there any frustration or lessons to be learned for the player because of how well he's been playing, and 5 yellow cards in 7 games could be viewed as a tad excessive?
Yeah, I think he will be disappointed because he doesn't want to miss any game. Knowing Anthony, he will be frustrated. Very, very passionate, as I've said many times. Very keen to play and show his worth. I think he's been outstanding at the start of this year. I think he was outstanding again on Wednesday. But I think the booking side of things has changed this year with the rules. You know, there's very little leeway on anything, and there's a yellow card out, whether that's a little pause and attack, whatever it is, with the new regulations that have come in. So I think suspensions then will come to the fore more, not just for Anthony, not just for us, but for other clubs as well. Something we're going to have to deal with. But obviously, if we can, we want to try and minimise those as much as possible.
Just going back to the theme of European football, you've got Yankuba Minte on loan at Feyenoord. Just how have you been monitoring his progress, and how much are you looking forward to working with him in the future?
Yeah, he started really well. Really pleased. I think whenever a player goes on loan, the expectation is that they learn and develop their game, and he's certainly learning and developing, and he's scoring goals. He's playing in a good team, in a good league, so really pleased.
We'll go Kieran, Oscar, and then we'll move on to Sundays, if that's okay.
Nearly half of the players who featured the other night were players you inherited. I think it's a reminder of how this has been more than just money these past couple of years, the club's transformation.
Well, yeah, I've always said I think money's part of our success. I don't think it's the whole story. I think the players that we inherited, we very quickly formed a strong bond with. I think they, and everybody, even players that have subsequently moved on, played a huge part in us staying in the league. And of course, those guys that then have stayed with us have gone on and done really well and gone from strength to strength. And whether we recruit a player or inherit a player, try and treat them all the same and develop their careers and coach them to try and be the best players that they can possibly be.
Have you even been amazed to see the journey they've gone on? I mean, having Sherkin get in the team before, Sean Longstaff said he felt lost before. Have you even been amazed by how well they've done?
Well, pleasantly surprised, I'd say. Definitely not amazed, because they're good players in their own right. I think they've got talents and gifts that make the team play better. The challenge for them and for every player is to then continue their growth, because the team's hopefully going to improve and continue to improve. And if you want to stay part of the journey, you've got to improve with it. So there's more demands to be placed upon them.
Oscar?
Eddie, as Craig mentioned, the chairman's been on the record saying he wants Newcastle to be the world's #1 club. Do performances and nights like Wednesday prove or show that that's not actually as far off as some people internally as well might have thought?
I think sort of urge caution and calmness. We've not proved anything. The season's so early. We had a couple of weeks ago that the sort of feeling was very different. And the questions sort of coming to me were very different. So in both phases, we have to be calm and recognise that we're in early stages of the season. We've got a lot to prove before we can say anything about what we've done. And we just put ourselves in a good position in the Champions League group. We're still formulating our Premier League position. We're determined to try and improve that, and games like Sunday are crucial to it.
given the progress over the last 2 years, where you've come from to where you are now, is there any reason why Newcastle can't be the world's number one club?
No, but we're not the world's number one club at the moment, and we've got to try and work towards that. These things take time. There's no magic wand. Being smart, making good decisions, and working hard every day. And if that is the ultimate aim, then we will do our best to try and get there.
Got one more from Martin and then on to Sundays, please.
So I was going to say, you talked about the 2 years, Eddie. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I think I got a question.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, how big a decision was it to uproot your family and bring them here? And just commitment to help when you're trying to attract players?
Yeah, for me, when I decided to take the job, it was a case of, it wasn't really a decision, it was something I had to do. It was a necessity, because if I'm going to commit the time that I'm going to commit to the job, I need my family with me, because I think that doesn't work without them by my side, without showing full commitment to the football club and the people of the football club that have entrusted me to do the job. So I think my actions there have to speak. So with them by my side, I feel a lot happier and a lot more stable, and it enables me to work, hopefully, smarter and better.
Yeah, on the 2-year rise of the club since the takeover, we used to talk about the big 4, then it was the big 6. Is there a permanent reshuffling of the order in that it's a 6 or a 7 or an 8 that are the contenders now for all those places in Europe?
I'll let you decide what it is. It's not for me to make statements like that. I think, yeah, that's more something for the media. I think from my side, it's just trying to build the strongest team that we can, try and be as consistent we can, and try and bring long-term success.
And you mentioned after the PSG game, it was a late night and you didn't watch the game back. What were you celebrating? What was going on in the boardroom?
Certainly wasn't what you might think it was. No, just talking and
just enjoying the moment.
Yeah.